Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobby Capucci, and this is Daily Drop number 22. Alright, there was really nothing going on in the news today. The mainstream media had nothing going on about Jeffrey Epstein, really. We're at the point where they had a Mitt Romney and Snopes article at the top in concern to Jeffrey Epstein. So that just shows you where we're at. But thankfully, I have an article from a few days ago from Philip Giraldi on the Lou Rockwell website. As always, the source material will be in the description. So this is an article that discusses, once again, another person asserting that Jeffrey Epstein was part of an intelligence scam. So we're going to jump right into this article today, and we'll see what's what. I have long argued that pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was clearly an intelligence agent and that he was most likely working for the Israeli External Service Mossad. My belief was based on the nature of his activity, which suggested that he was able to blackmail important Americans using the sex tapes he had been able to make at his Manhattan mansion. Put that together with the existence of his fake Austrian passport, as well as former Miami federal attorney Alexandra Acosta's comments, and it would seem that an intelligence connection is obvious. Acosta was particularly damning. When asked, is the Epstein case going to cause a problem for confirmation hearings, he replied that I had just one meeting on the Epstein case. He'd cut the non-prosecution deal with one of Epstein's attorneys because he had been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. The answers to those remaining questions about Epstein are still lacking, even though he is gone, but one fears that the authorities will be disinclined to further investigate a dead man. It appears that no one in the various investigative agencies or the mainstream media has been interested in what Acosta meant, even though it would be simple enough to ask him. Who told him to back off, and how did they explain it? And then there is Epstein's Austrian passport. Was the document fake or real, with a real name and a photo substitution or alternation of both picture and name? How did he get it? Austrian passports are highly desirable in intelligence circles because the country is neutral and its holders can travel just about everywhere without a visa. Alright, so if you go back and you look at the closer look segment, we go into all of this with the Austrian passport, and Ronald Lauder was the Austrian ambassador at the time. And he ran in the same circles, and it would seem to me and other investigative journalists like Whitney Webb that that is where he got the Austrian visa. And let's remember, he also had Austrian passport. He also had a Saudi passport as well. What Epstein did and how he did it was an intelligence operation in support of the Mossad. There is no other viable explanation for his filming of prominent politicians and celebrities having sex with young girls. Recruiting and running American movers and shakers like Bill Clinton with his 26 trips on the Lolita Express, former Governor Bill Richardson, or former Senator George Mitchell are precisely the types of agents of influence that the Mossad would seek to coerce or even blackmail into cooperation. Now, for those of you who have been listening from the beginning, you all know that that is where we're at. This is all the hallmarks of an intelligence operation, and you see all these other people that talk about it, but the mainstream media won't have anything to do with it. They're so busy with their narrative and trying to wipe the egg off of their face from the previous election and the whole Russian thing that they don't have the time to, really do the legwork in a case like this, I guess. I guess they don't have the resources. I mean, what else? What else could be the reasoning behind it? I'm asking you. You guys tell me. Other compelling evidence for a Mossad connection came from Epstein's relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, who reportedly served as his key procurer of young girls. Ghislaine is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who died or possibly was assassinated in mysterious circumstances in 1991. Maxwell was an Anglo-Jewish businessman, very cosmopolitan in profile, like Epstein, a multimillionaire who was very controversial with what were regarded as ongoing ties to Mossad. After his death, he was given a state funeral by Israel in which 6 serving and former heads of Israeli intelligence listened while Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir eulogized. He has done more for Israel than can today be said. All right, so you don't get a eulogy from a prime minister of a country if you're just a citizen, if you're just a prominent businessman. You have to have had ties to the government, ties to some sort of government agency, or else you're not getting eulogized like this. Israel and high-profile Jewish players also have continued to turn up like bad pennies in the Epstein case, but no one seems to be interested in pursuing that angle. Epstein clearly had contact with former Israeli Prime Minister Shimon Peres and Ehud Barak, and Epstein patrol Les Wexner also had close ties to the Jewish state and its government. And now, finally, more evidence of the relationship is surfaced, even though the mainstream media appears to have lost all interest in the subject. A recent interview given by a former high-ranking official in Israeli military intelligence made the claim that Epstein's sexual blackmail enterprise was from the beginning an Israeli intelligence operation involving the entrapment of powerful individuals and politicians in the United States and also abroad. Okay, so we've covered this as well at length. So if you've been following what's been going on here on the Daily Drops and the Jeffrey Epstein show, you're totally up to date on all of this. And now you see the whole point in me doing these daily drops, right? What happens is we come across the same news over and over and over and over. Now, if we keep analyzing it, eventually we're going to come to the answers that we're looking for, because we have more evidence pointing us in the direction where we believe it's going. And it seems like this evidence, as he's saying here, is just being completely ignored by the mainstream media. And for what reason? Nobody can answer. Nobody seems to be able to answer that question. What legitimate reason would the media have to ignore this story, something as salacious as this? In an interview with Zev Shalev, former CBS News executive producer, the retired senior executive for Israel's Directorate of Military Intelligence, Ari Ben-Menashe, claimed not to only have first met Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged procuress, Ghislaine Maxwell, in the 80s, but that both Epstein and Maxwell were already working with Israeli intelligence prior to that time. Ben-Menashe was himself involved in the notorious Iran-Contra arms deals. He claimed that he had been introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by Robert Maxwell in the mid-1980s, while Maxwell and Ben-Menashe were themselves working on Iran-Contra. He, Maxwell, wanted us to accept him, Epstein, as part of our group. I'm not denying that we were at the time a group, that it was Nick Davies, foreign editor of the Maxwell-owned Daily Mirror. It was Maxwell. It was myself and our team from Israel. We were doing what we were doing. Ben-Menashe's account has been corroborated independently by investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, describing how Maxwell, Davies, and Ben-Menashe arranged the transfer and sale of military equipment and weapons from Israel to Iran on behalf of Mossad and the CIA during that time period. Ben-Menashe, who would have absolutely nothing to gain by lying, described how Maxwell stated during the introduction that your Israeli bosses have already approved of Epstein. Maxwell was involved in a major intelligence network in Israel, which included the then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, and was well placed to know what of which he spoke. Will the three simultaneous investigations currently taking place even seek to ask the right questions now that the target of the investigation is gone and the new Ben-Menashe information has surfaced? Given the high stakes in the game, quite likely there will be a cover-up, both of how Epstein lived and how he died, and most importantly, whom he worked for. Unfortunately, but predictably, the media and the inside the Beltway chattering class have lost interest in the story, and we, the public, will most likely never learn what Epstein was all about. Just another instance of Israel spying on the United States. Ho hum. Wow. So, look, again, it's obvious what's going on here. You have numerous people discussing this, numerous people that are in the know. A guy that worked for Israeli military intelligence coming out and saying this. It's at the point now where it's obviously a cover-up. It's obviously a cover-up. They're covering up, like he said, the way Jeffrey Epstein lived, the way he died, and everything in between. We still don't have any word about those camera malfunctions in the cell when he died. We still have no word about the guards who supposedly fell asleep on duty the night that he died. We have no information. We have no anything about the guard that wasn't even really a guard who was on duty that night. We have no information about the young lady who came and seen him in the days leading up to his quote unquote suicide. We have zero information about anything. Zero. Zero, zero, zero. And you know what they say, investigations are places where things go to die. And supposedly the Justice Department is looking into themselves. How convenient for them. Look, I know I come off cynical on this podcast when I'm discussing the FBI and the CIA. And just to be clear, I don't really mean the rank and file agents. I'm talking about the leadership structure. I'm talking about at the very top and the lifelong bureaucrats who are so entrenched in their own Game of Thrones that they don't give a flying you-know-what about anyone else besides themselves. And the whole entire purpose of everything they're doing is to consolidate power. They're so crazed, they're so power hungry that they have to consolidate power at all costs, and nothing else matters. That's it. That's all they care about. Power, 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 and more power. And obviously, with that power comes the riches that they so crave as well. All right, so that's all for Daily Drop number 22. We will be back tomorrow for another drop. If you haven't checked it out yet today, Lee and I got back together and we had another roughly hour-long show where we discuss some pretty interesting things about the prospects of what would happen if they made a movie about Jeffrey Epstein, some of the actors that we think that would fit the roles and how the story might go. You know, just some stuff like something a little bit different. Like I said, the news has been pretty slow in the Epstein case, and those Sunday long-form shows, that's what they're for. They're more of a variety show where Lee and I discuss some things. Lee will pick some topics out, and he won't even tell me what the topics are, and we'll just, I'll just go off of the cuff when we start discussing them on the show. So you have that as well as the Daily Drop today, and we'll be back tomorrow with another Daily Drop, and we'll just keep it rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling until we get those answers that we so desperately seek. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. I will talk to you tomorrow.